The massive crystal hall on Nexus Prime sparkled with light from 12 different suns. Representatives from every species in the Galactic Coalition sat in their assigned sections. The air hummed with the sounds of different languages being translated through universal devices. Supreme Commander Veltar of the Reptilian Hegemony stood at the center podium. His scales gleamed dark green under the lights. His yellow eyes swept across the gathered aliens before settling on the small human section in the far corner. Friends of the Coalition, Veltar began, his voice carrying easily through the hall. We gather today to discuss a problem that has grown too large to ignore. The humans, murmurs filled the hall. Some species nodded in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The humans sat quietly, showing no emotion. For 300 years, Earth has been the weakest member of our great coalition, Veltar continued. They contribute almost nothing. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are old and slow. They offer only basic food and raw materials while taking our advanced knowledge and protection. Ambassador Huna Choi sat in the human section. She was a small woman with dark hair and calm eyes. She listened without moving, her hands folded in her lap. Next to her sat two other human representatives equally still and quiet. The time has come, Veltar said, his voice growing louder, to relocate the human population to reservation worlds. This will free up Earth and its solar system for species that can use these resources properly. The insectoid Queen Mextor clicked her approval. Her compound eyes reflected the light as she spoke through her translator. The hive agrees. Humans waste valuable space and resources. The ethereal council leader Quindal floated slightly above his seat, his translucent body shimmering. While the proposal has merit, we should consider the humans' feelings in this matter. Feelings? Laughed the silicon-based collective ambassador Ralnon. His rocky form ground against itself as he moved. They are too primitive to understand. We speak of efficiency and progress. One by one, the species voiced their opinions. 8 of the 12 agreed with the relocation plan. Only 3 spoke against it. The final species remained undecided. All eyes turned to the human section. Ambassador Huna Choi stood slowly. She walked to the speaking area with calm, measured steps. Her simple gray uniform looked plain next to the elaborate clothing and natural features of the other species. Honored members of the coalition, she said in a clear voice. This is indeed a serious proposal. One that requires careful thought. Veltar's eyes narrowed. There is nothing to think about, human. Your species has had 3 centuries to prove its worth. You have failed, Huna smiled slightly. We have indeed been busy these past 3 centuries. Perhaps more busy than you realize. Something in her tone made several aliens shift uneasily. The ethereal leader. Quindal tilted his head, studying her more carefully. I request a deliberation period of 72 hours, Huna continued. This will allow all parties to consider the full implications of this decision. Ridiculous, Veltar snapped. What could you possibly need to consider? We need time to contact our government and discuss our response, Huna said calmly. Surely the coalition believes in fair process. The council leader Quindal spoke up. The request is reasonable. We grant the 72-hour period. Veltar looked angry but said nothing. The other species murmured among themselves. Some seemed puzzled by the humans' calm reaction. They had expected fear, anger, or desperate pleading. Huna bowed slightly to the assembly. Thank you. We will have our answer in 3 days. As the session ended, aliens began filing out of the hall. Many cast curious glances at the human section. The 3 human representatives gathered their simple belongings and walked out together. In the corridor outside, Veltar caught up with them. I do not know what game you think you are playing, human, he hissed at Huna, but it will not save your species. Huna looked up at the towering reptilian commander. Games can be dangerous, Commander, especially when you do not know all the players. That evening, in her simple quarters aboard the human diplomatic ship, Huna activated a communication device. It looked like a basic transmitter, but it contained technology that no other coalition species possessed. Admiral Park, she said into the device. The vote will happen in 3 days. 8 species support relocation. 3 oppose. 1 is undecided. Far away in the cold darkness beyond Pluto, Admiral Jiho Park received the message. He stood on the bridge of the massive ship Teguk, looking out at a sight that would have shocked every member of the Galactic Coalition. Ships, hundreds of them, more than any single coalition species had ever built. They hung in the darkness like sleeping giants, their hulls black and silent. No energy signatures, no detectable technology. To any scanner, they would appear to be nothing more than asteroids. Admiral Park was a man in his 50s with gray hair and steady hands. He had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. Around him, his crew moved with quiet efficiency. They all knew what was coming. "Signal all fleet commanders," Park said to his communications officer. "Begin Phase 1 activation." Throughout the hidden fleet, ships began to stir. Power cores that had been dormant for decades came online. Weapons systems that had never been tested in combat ran their final checks. Crews that had trained in secret their entire lives took their battle stations. On the bridge of the fast attack ship Seoul, Captain Minji Kim checked her pilot controls. She was young for a captain, only 32, but she had been chosen for her incredible skill and quick thinking. Her ship was one of 50 that would lead the first wave. All systems green. "Admiral," she reported over the fleet communication system. Dr. Wanbin Lee worked frantically in his laboratory aboard the science vessel Busan. Around him, 3 centuries of stolen and improved alien technology hummed with power, weapons that could pierce any known shield, defenses that could adapt to any attack, propulsion systems that made coalition ships look like they were standing still. "Weapons packages are ready for deployment," he reported. Lieutenant Do Hyun Yang, barely 25 and one of the youngest officers in the fleet, studied tactical displays on the command ship. His young face was serious as he calculated attack patterns and defensive positions. Despite his age, his strategic mind was already legendary among the fleet commanders. "Fleet positioning optimal, sir," he reported to Admiral Park. Admiral Park nodded. For 300 years, humanity had played the role of the weak, primitive species. They had watched and learned while the coalition species looked down on them. Every piece of technology that entered Earth's solar system had been studied, copied, and improved. Every alien who visited Earth had been carefully observed. Now the time for hiding was almost over. "Prepare for revelation protocol," Admiral Park ordered. "In 72 hours, the galaxy will learn what humanity has really been doing all this time." The hidden fleet continued its silent preparations. Soon, the greatest deception in galactic history would come to an end. The Coalition's early warning systems had been running smoothly for over 200 years. Massive sensor arrays watched every approach to the core worlds. Nothing larger than a small asteroid could move through space without being detected and tracked. That was why the alarm that sounded on the monitoring station near Rigel caused such panic. "Impossible," whispered the duty officer, a spider-like being from the Arachnid Collective. His 8 eyes stared at the display screens showing massive energy signatures appearing from nowhere. The sensors must be broken, but the sensors were not broken. Across Coalition space, similar alarms were sounding. Ships were appearing where no ships should be. Large ships, fast ships, ships that seemed to bend light around themselves. Captain Minji Kim smiled as her stealth frigate Seoul dropped its cloaking field right in the middle of the hegemony's home defense fleet. Around her, 49 other human ships did the same. They had traveled across half the galaxy in just 6 hours, using technology that the Coalition thought was impossible. "All ships report ready." "Captain," her tactical officer said. Through her view screen, Minji could see the hegemony ships scrambling to respond. Their massive battleships were turning slowly, trying to bring weapons to bear on targets they could barely see. The human ships moved like dancers, impossible to track or target. "This is Captain Kim of the Earth Defense Force," she broadcast on all frequencies. "Hegemony Fleet, you are ordered to stand down and await further instructions." Supreme Commander Veltar's voice crackled back over the communication system. "You dare threaten us with your primitive ships? We have 1,000 vessels to your 50. Numbers are not everything, Commander," Minji replied calmly. "Sometimes quality matters more." She nodded to her weapons officer. A single pulse of energy shot from her ship and struck the Hegemony flagship. The massive ship's shields flickered and died. Its weapons went offline. Its engines stopped working. The ship was completely helpless but undamaged. "What did you do?" Veltar demanded. "We studied your technology for 300 years, Minji explained as her ship danced between the enemy vessels. "We know every weakness, every flaw, every way to shut down your systems without destroying them." The same scene was playing out across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing in every major coalition system. They moved with impossible speed and struck with surgical precision. Coalition fleets that had seemed mighty were being disabled in minutes. On the research ship Busan, Dr. Wanbin Lee watched the reports coming in with satisfaction. He was a thin man with thick glasses and hands stained by chemical work. For 30 years, he had led humanity's secret technology program. The adaptive shield tests are successful, he reported to Admiral Park. Coalition weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. Dr. Lee's laboratory was filled with wonders that would have amazed any coalition scientist. Energy shields that could change their frequency to block any attack. Weapons that could phase through matter and strike targets from inside. Computers that could hack any alien system in seconds. How is this possible? He had been asked many times over the years. The answer was simple but took decades to achieve. Humans were generalists. Every other species in the coalition had developed along narrow paths. The reptilian hegemony was obsessed with brute force. The ethereal council focused on energy manipulation. The insectoids perfected collective thinking. Humans had studied them all and found ways to combine their technologies. A shield system based on ethereal energy control, powered by hegemony fusion cores, and controlled by computers using insectoid collective processing. The result was technology that surpassed anything any single species could create. Phase 2. Weapons are ready for deployment. Dr. Lee continued. Each weapon is specifically designed to counter one coalition species' defenses. Admiral Park nodded. Excellent work, Doctor. Begin distribution to all fleet units. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, the Coalition Council was in emergency session. Reports were flooding in from across their territory. Human ships everywhere. Coalition fleets disabled. No casualties, but complete tactical defeat. Council leader Quindal floated above his seat, his ethereal form shimmering with agitation. How could we have been so wrong about human capabilities? Ambassador Ralanon's rocky form ground against itself as he processed the information. The logical conclusion is that we were deceived. Deliberately and completely. Queen Mextor's compound eyes reflected the chaos of the emergency session. The hive demands an explanation. How did primitive humans develop such technology? Ambassador Huna Choi stood calmly in the human section. The other species representatives were shouting and demanding answers. She waited for them to quiet down before speaking. You want an explanation? She said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. Very well. For 300 years you have seen what you expected to see, a weak primitive species that needed your protection and guidance. She activated a holographic display that showed Earth's solar system. But instead of the simple mining operations and agricultural colonies the Coalition knew about, the display showed the truth. Massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, military bases on distant moons, research facilities buried deep underground. Every mining operation was a cover for resource gathering, Hyuna explained. Every cultural exchange was an intelligence mission. Every human settlement was a strategic outpost. The display showed more images, underground factories on Earth producing advanced weapons, hidden academies training military officers, secret research stations where alien technology was studied and improved. You shared your technology freely with us, Hyuna continued. You thought we were too primitive to understand it. You were wrong. We understood it better than you did. Veltar stood up, his scales dark with rage. You admit to deceiving us. To spying on us? We admit to surviving, Hyuna replied calmly. You thought humans were weak because we appeared weak. You never considered that appearance and reality might be different things. The holographic display changed to show the hidden fleet. Hundreds of ships, larger and more advanced than anything in the Coalition's fleets. Ships that had been built in secret over 3 centuries, while the galaxy thought humans could barely manage interplanetary travel. This is impossible. Queen Mextor clicked. Our intelligence services would have detected such activities. Your intelligence services saw what we wanted them to see, Hyuna said. We are very good at showing people what they expect. Lieutenant Do-Hyun Yang coordinated the fleet movements from his position aboard the command ship. Despite his young age, his strategic mind was perfectly suited for managing complex operations across multiple star systems and all. Units report successful insertion, he announced to Admiral Park. Coalition, response time is 70% slower than predicted. Their tactical systems cannot adapt to our movement patterns. Admiral Park studied the tactical displays. Every major Coalition world was now under the watch of human ships. Their fleets were disabled but intact. Their governments were confused but unharmed. It is time for the final revelation, Admiral Park decided. Open a channel to all Coalition worlds. His image appeared on screens across the galaxy. A calm, steady man in a simple military uniform. Behind him, the massive bridge of the Teguk showed technology that seemed like magic to Coalition eyes. People of the galaxy, he began. I am Admiral Jiho Park of the Earth Defense Force. For 300 years, you have known humanity as a weak and primitive species. Today, that illusion ends. The display behind him showed human ships across Coalition space, not attacking, not destroying, but demonstrating complete tactical superiority. We did not deceive you out of malice, Admiral Park continued. We deceived you out of necessity. You have just voted to relocate our entire species because you thought we were weak. What would you have done if you had known we were strong? The question hung in the air across a dozen worlds. The Coalition had found their answer. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 18 hours. Representatives from 12 species argued, shouted, and demanded explanations. The revelation of humanity's true capabilities had shattered everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Ambassador Huna Choi stood at the center of the Great Hall. Around her, holographic displays showed the scope of humanity's deception. Every species stared at images that rewrote 3 centuries of history. The asteroid mining facility at Ceres, Huna explained, pointing to one display. You thought it was a simple operation to gather raw materials. In reality, it was our largest shipyard. Every ship you see in our fleet was built there. The display showed massive construction bays hidden inside the asteroid. Ships taking shape in the darkness while Coalition freighters passed by unknowing. The agricultural colonies on Mars, she continued. You believed we were learning to grow food in harsh conditions. We were actually testing life support systems for long-range military operations. Council leader Quindal's ethereal form flickered with confusion, but our inspectors visited these facilities. They filed detailed reports. They saw what we wanted them to see, Huna replied. We are very good at building false walls and hiding technology. Your inspectors examined fake equipment while the real work happened kilometers below their feet. Another display activated, showing Earth itself, but not the simple world the Coalition knew. Underground cities sprawled beneath the surface. Massive factories hidden in mountain ranges, training facilities disguised as universities. New Geneva was not just our capital city, Huna said. It was the entrance to our primary military command center. Every diplomatic meeting you held there took place directly above our war room. Supreme Commander Veltar slammed his clawed hand on his seat. This is an act of war. You have spied on us for centuries. We have observed you, Huna corrected. Just as you observed us. The difference is that you underestimated what you were seeing. The displays changed again, showing alien technology being studied in human laboratories, hegemony weapons being taken apart and improved, ethereal energy systems being adapted for human use, insectoid communication networks being analyzed and enhanced. Every trade agreement gave us access to your technology, Huna explained. Every cultural exchange let us study your methods. Every diplomatic visit taught us about your capabilities and weaknesses. Dr. Wanbin Lee's recorded voice played over the speakers. The reptilian plasma rifles use a simple frequency modulation that can be jammed with basic interference. The ethereal energy shields operate on fixed harmonics that can be disrupted with the right sound wave. The insectoid collective network has a single point of failure that can shut down entire fleets, the alien. Representatives listened in growing horror as the recording detailed the weaknesses of every Coalition technology. 300 years of supposed cooperation had been 300 years of espionage. You planned this from the beginning, accused Ambassador Ralnan. From the moment we first met your species. No, Huna said quietly. We planned this from the moment we realized how you saw us. The hall fell silent. Huna's words carried a weight that made even the most aggressive species pause. When your ships first arrived at Earth, we were excited, she continued. We thought we were joining a community of equals. We were ready to share everything we had learned and everything we could discover. A new display appeared, showing recordings from humanity's first contact with the Coalition 3 centuries earlier. Young, eager human scientists sharing their discoveries, human leaders offering friendship and cooperation. But you did not see equals, Huna said. You saw primitives. You saw a species that could be useful but never important. You gave us technology, but only the basics. You shared knowledge, but only what you thought we could understand. You offered protection, but only because you thought we needed it. The recordings showed the gradual change in alien attitudes. Initial interest turning to dismissal. Offers of partnership becoming demands for submission. Respect becoming condescension. So we adapted, Huna said. We gave you what you expected. A primitive species that was grateful for your help. A weak civilization that needed your guidance. A simple people who could never threaten anyone. Queen Mextor's clicking grew agitated. The hive demands to know how many other lies you have told us. No lies, Huna replied. Only truths you chose not to see. Every report we filed with the Coalition was accurate. We said we were mining asteroids. We were. We said we were growing food. We were. We said we were studying your technology. We were. But you never mentioned the military applications, Council Leader Quindal said. You never asked, Huna pointed out. You assumed that primitive humans could not possibly develop military technology that would concern advanced species like yourselves. The truth was becoming clear to the assembled aliens. Humanity had not lied to them. They had lied to themselves, seeing only what they wanted to see. Lieutenant Do Yun Yang's voice came over the communication system. Admiral Park, Coalition forces are mobilizing across 7 sectors. It appears they are preparing for military action. From his position aboard the Teguk, Admiral Park responded calmly. Understood, Lieutenant. All human forces are to maintain defensive positions. Do not fire unless fired upon. The exchange was broadcast throughout the council hall. The alien representatives realized that their every communication was being monitored. The humans knew about their military preparations before their own commanders did. How long have you been listening to our private communications? Demanded Veltar. Since the 2nd week after first contact, Huna answered. Your encryption methods are quite advanced, but not perfect. It took our computers about 6 months to break your codes completely. The implications hit the assembled aliens like a physical blow. Every secret military communication, every private diplomatic message, every classified research project. Humanity had been listening to all of it for 3 centuries. The Council must vote immediately, Veltar declared. This deception cannot be allowed to stand. We must take military action against Earth before they can use their advantage against us. You still do not understand, Huna said sadly. We could have used our advantage against you at any time in the past 300 years. We chose not to. She activated a final display that showed human weapons capabilities. Energy weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Viruses that could shut down Coalition computer systems. Biological agents that could incapacitate any known alien species without harming them. We have had the ability to conquer or destroy every Coalition species for over 2 centuries, Huna explained. We chose instead to remain hidden and protect ourselves. The hall erupted in chaos. Some species demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiation. A few began calculating whether they should ally with humanity or flee to the outer rim. Council Leader Quindal raised his hand for silence. What do you want from us now? He asked Huna. What we have always wanted, she replied. To be left alone to develop as we choose. To be treated as equals rather than primitives. To have the same rights and freedoms that every other Coalition species enjoys. And if we refuse? Veltar demanded. Huna looked at him with calm, steady eyes. Then you will discover why it was unwise to try to relocate a species without understanding what that species was truly capable of. Admiral Park's voice echoed through the hall one more time. The Coalition has 24 hours to withdraw the Human Relocation Initiative and grant Earth full sovereign rights within the Coalition. After that time, we will be forced to take whatever actions are necessary to protect our people. The session ended in confusion and fear. Some species began immediate preparations for war. Others started drafting alliance proposals. The galaxy would never be the same. In her quarters that night, Huna looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity had made the right choice. 3 centuries of careful planning and patient deception had led to this moment. Soon, the galaxy would discover the true cost of underestimating humanity. Supreme Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conqueror. Around him stretched the largest fleet the reptilian hegemony had ever assembled. 3,000 ships prepared for battle while their commanders studied tactical displays. The human ultimatum expires in 2 hours, his tactical officer reported. Should we wait for their response? No, Veltar growled, his yellow eyes fixed on Earth's location. We strike first. These primitives may have surprised us, but they are still outnumbered 50-1 across the galaxy. The hegemony fleet began its attack run toward Earth's solar system. Behind them, ships from 4 other coalition species followed. Queen Mextor had committed her insectoid swarms. The Silicon Collective had sent their most powerful war machines. 2 smaller species had joined out of fear rather than conviction. On the other side of the galaxy, 3 species had declared neutrality. Council leader Quindal and 2 others had opened secret communications with humanity, trying to arrange a peaceful solution. Admiral Jiho Park watched the approaching enemy fleet on his displays. The human ships waited in defensive positions throughout the solar system. No massive formations or obvious battle lines. Instead, they seemed scattered randomly through space. Enemy fleet will reach engagement range in 30 minutes, reported Lieutenant Do Yun Yang. Despite his youth, he had been placed in charge of coordinating the entire defense. Their formation suggests they plan to overwhelm us with superior numbers. Classic coalition thinking, Admiral Park observed. They still believe that more ships equals victory. Captain Minji Kim's voice crackled over the communication system from her position near Jupiter. All human units report ready, Admiral. Stealth systems are active. Enemy sensors show no indication they can track our movements. Dr. Wan Bin Li had spent the past 24 hours making final preparations. His specially designed weapons were loaded on every human ship. Each weapon was tailored to exploit the specific weaknesses of different alien species. Biological suppression fields are ready for the insectoids, he reported.
Sonic disruptors are prepared for the ethereals.
Electromagnetic pulse weapons are targeted at Silicon. Collective systems. The first phase of the battle began when Veltar's fleet crossed the orbit of Pluto. They expected to face a traditional space battle, with ships lined up and firing at each other across vast distances. Instead, human ships simply disappeared. Where did they go? Demanded Veltar as his sensors showed empty space where the human fleet had been moments before. His answer came in the form of weapons fire from impossible angles. Human ships attacked from above and below, from the sides and rear. They appeared just long enough to fire, then vanished again before return fire could be targeted. Captain Minji Kim led a squadron of fast attack ships in a series of lightning strikes against the hegemony's heavy cruisers. Her ships moved so quickly that enemy gunners could not track them. Their weapons passed right through coalition shields as if they did not exist. How are they penetrating our defenses? Veltar demanded as another of his ships went dark, its systems disabled by weapons that seemed to ignore its armor. Lieutenant Do Hyun Yang coordinated the human response from his command post. His tactical displays showed every enemy ship and their exact weaknesses. 3 centuries of intelligence gathering had prepared humanity for exactly this moment. Insectoid swarm approaching from Sector 7, he reported calmly. Activating biological suppression field. Queen Mextor's ships suddenly found their crews unable to function. The biological agents released by human weapons disrupted the chemical signals that allowed insectoid collective thinking. Individual ship crews became confused and disorganized without their hive connection. The hive cannot think clearly, Queen Mextor transmitted desperately. What have you done to us? We have temporarily disrupted your collective neural network, Dr. Lee's voice responded over the communication system. Your crews will recover completely in 6 hours. Consider it a demonstration of restraint. The Silicon Collective's war machines suffered a different fate. Electromagnetic pulse weapons designed specifically for their systems sent cascading failures through their computer networks. The massive ships found themselves helpless, drifting in space while their crews worked frantically to restore basic functions. This is impossible, transmitted Ambassador Ralnon. Our systems are hardened against all known forms of electronic warfare. All known forms, admitted Admiral Park. But we have had 3 centuries to develop new forms. The battle that was supposed to overwhelm humanity with superior numbers turned into a rout. Coalition ships were disabled faster than they could coordinate responses. Human vessels appeared and disappeared at will, striking with precision and vanishing before counterattacks could be organized. But the most shocking moment came when reinforcements arrived from the inner coalition worlds. A massive fleet led by the Ethereal Council approached the battlefield, ready to tip the balance with their superior energy weapons. They found their path blocked by other alien ships. Council leader Quindal led a fleet of species that had chosen to ally with humanity rather than fight them. "Stand down, Veltar," Quindal transmitted. "This war serves no purpose except to prove that the humans have been more honest with us than we were with ourselves." "You betray your own species," Veltar accused. "I protect my species," Quindal replied. "The humans could have destroyed us all centuries ago. Instead, they chose to hide until we forced their hand. That shows wisdom we should learn from, not fight against." The battle near Jupiter became the turning point. Queen Mextor, seeing her fleets disabled but unharmed, made a crucial decision. "The Hive withdraws from this conflict," she transmitted. "We have seen enough to understand that continued fighting serves no purpose." One by one, the coalition species began to withdraw. Some joined the growing alliance with humanity. Others simply fled to avoid further embarrassment. Within 6 hours, only Veltar's hegemony ships remained committed to the fight. Captain Minji Kim found herself in single combat with Veltar's flagship. Her small frigate danced around the massive battleship like a bird around a mountain. Every shot from the enemy ship missed while her precise strike systematically disabled its weapons and engines. "This is not possible," Veltar transmitted desperately. "My ship is 100 times larger than yours." "Size is not everything, Commander," Minji replied as her final shot disabled the last of his weapon systems. "Sometimes skill matters more than strength." The battle ended with Veltar's flagship helpless and alone, surrounded by human ships. The rest of his fleet had either been disabled or had retreated. The Coalition's attempt to crush humanity before they could use their advantages had failed completely. Admiral Park's image appeared on screens throughout the hegemony flagship. "Supreme Commander Veltar, your forces are defeated but unharmed. Your crews will recover from the suppression weapons within hours. Your ships can be repaired in days." "Why?" Veltar asked, his pride broken. "Why did you not destroy us when you had the chance?" "Because that is not who we are," Admiral Park replied. "We fight to protect ourselves, not to conquer others. We could rule the galaxy by force, but we choose not to." The war was over before it had truly begun. Coalition forces across the galaxy stood down as news of the battle spread. Humanity had demonstrated not just their military superiority, but their restraint in using it. In the aftermath, species that had remained neutral began openly declaring their support for a new galactic order with humanity as an equal partner. The age of human deception was ending, but the age of human leadership was just beginning. Lieutenant Do-Hyun Yang looked at his tactical displays, showing the aftermath of the battle. No ships destroyed. No crews killed. Victory achieved through precision rather than brutality. "Admiral," he reported, "all Coalition forces have withdrawn or surrendered." "Earth's solar system is secure," Admiral Park nodded. "Very well. Signal all ships to return to defensive positions. The war is over, but now the real work begins." 6 months after the battle for Earth, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on Nexus Prime once again, but this time the Great Crystal Hall looked very different. The old Coalition seating arrangement was gone, replaced by a circular design where all species sat as equals. Admiral Jiho Park stood at the center of the circle, no longer hiding behind the pretense of weakness. His simple uniform had been replaced by the formal dress of the new Galactic Alliance's Supreme Coordinator. Around him, the representatives of 15 species waited to sign the most important agreement in galactic history. "The Terran Accords," he began, gesturing to the document displayed on holographic screens. "Establish a new foundation for galactic civilization, one based on cooperation rather than domination, on honesty rather than deception." Council leader Quindal floated nearby, his ethereal form shimmering with approval. "The Ethereal Council is honored to be founding members of this new alliance. We have learned much about the value of looking beyond appearances." Queen Mextor clicked her agreement. "The Hive acknowledges that collective strength comes from diversity, not uniformity. We pledge our full participation in this new order." Even Supreme Commander Veltar was present, though his presence was more reluctant. The events of the past months had humbled the reptilian hegemony. Their military might, once the foundation of their power, seemed primitive compared to human capabilities. "The hegemony accepts the terms of the Accords," he said formally. "We acknowledge that strength comes in many forms, and that the strongest species is not always the wisest." Ambassador Huna Choi sat in the human section. watching as species after species agreed to the new arrangement. The woman who had spent years hiding humanity's true nature now worked openly to build bridges between former enemies. The most important change, she explained to the assembly, is the establishment of the Integrated Development Council. No species will develop technology in isolation anymore. All advances will be shared and improved through cooperation. Dr. Wanbin Li had spent the months since the war adapting his research methods. Instead of secretly studying alien technology, he now worked openly with scientists from every species. The results had exceeded everyone's expectations. Joint research stations are already operational, he reported. A hegemony fusion reactor powered by ethereal energy manipulation and controlled by insectoid collective processing has achieved efficiency levels none of us could have reached alone. The new approach to technology was revolutionary. Each species brought their strengths to shared projects. Humans provided their ability to synthesize different approaches. Ethereals contributed advanced energy theories. Insectoids offered collective problem-solving methods. Even the Silicon Collective's logical processing proved valuable when combined with organic creativity. Captain Minji Kim had been promoted to admiral and given command of the new integrated fleet. Ships, crewed by mixed-species teams, patrolled trade routes and protected worlds throughout the Alliance territory. Recruitment for integrated crews has exceeded all expectations, she reported. Young beings from every species are eager to serve together rather than separately. The old barriers between species were breaking down rapidly. Human tactical methods combined with ethereal technology created ships that were both more effective and more elegant than anything previously built. Insectoid collective thinking enhanced by human individual creativity produced solutions to problems that had puzzled single species for centuries. Lieutenant Do-Hyun Yang, now promoted to commander, led the Integrated Naval Academy on Luna. Human, alien, and hybrid students learned together, developing new approaches to strategy and diplomacy that no single species could have imagined. The first class of integrated officers graduates next month, he announced. They represent the future of galactic civilization, beings who think beyond the limitations of their birth species. But the greatest change was not technological or military, it was cultural. Species that had viewed each other with suspicion or condescension were learning to work together as equals. The ethereal healing arts, combined with human medical knowledge and insectoid biochemistry, had produced treatments for diseases that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Hegemony engineering, enhanced by human adaptability and silicon collective precision, was building infrastructure that would last for thousands of years. The old coalition was based on fear, Admiral Park explained to the assembly. Fear that other species would take what you had. Fear that cooperation meant weakness. Fear that sharing knowledge would reduce your advantages. He gestured to the displays showing the remarkable progress of the past 6 months. The alliance is based on the understanding that cooperation creates strength, that sharing knowledge multiplies its value, that diversity enhances rather than threatens security. Not every species had joined the alliance immediately. 3 had chosen to remain independent, preferring isolation to cooperation, but even they were beginning to reconsider as they watched the rapid progress being made by alliance members. Ambassador Ralnon of the Silicon Collective had initially resisted the new arrangement. Logic suggested that sharing our computational advantages would weaken our position, he admitted. Logic was incomplete. Combining our processing power with organic creativity has enhanced our capabilities beyond calculation. The signing ceremony itself was simple but profound. Each species placed their agreement marker on the Terran Accords, committing to a future of shared development and mutual respect. As the last signature was added, Admiral Park addressed the assembly one final time. 300 years ago, humanity entered galactic civilization as the weakest member. We were looked down upon, dismissed, and ultimately threatened with relocation. The hall was silent as he continued. We could have responded with anger. We could have used our hidden advantages to conquer or destroy those who threatened us. Instead, we chose a different path. He looked around the circle at the representatives of species that had once considered humans primitive. We chose to prove that strength and wisdom are not the same thing, that the ability to destroy is less important than the wisdom to build, that cooperation achieves more than domination. The ceremony concluded with the activation of the Alliance Communication Network. For the first time in galactic history, all member species would share information instantly and completely. No more secrets, no more deception, no more misunderstandings based on incomplete information. 5 years later, the changes were even more dramatic. Alliance territory had expanded to include most of the known galaxy. Trade flourished between species that had previously been enemies. Joint colonies were established where multiple species worked together to terraform new worlds. The University of Nexus Prime, once a symbol of coalition elitism, had become the premier center of learning in the galaxy. Students from dozens of species studied together, learning from teachers who represented the best minds of every civilization. Dr. Lee's research had produced medical treatments that worked for all known species, regardless of their biology. Captain Kim's integrated fleets maintained peace without the need for massive military buildup. Commander Yang's tactical innovations had made large-scale warfare obsolete. But perhaps the most important change was in the young beings growing up in Alliance worlds. They thought of themselves not as humans or ethereals or insectoids, but as galactic citizens. The prejudices and limitations of their elders seemed strange to them. Admiral Park, now in his 70s, watched from his office on Earth as a group of mixed-species children played in the gardens outside. Human, ethereal, and hegemony young ones worked together to build something that none of them could have created alone. Was it worth it? Ambassador Huna asked, joining him at the window. She had become the Alliance's chief diplomatic officer, using the skills she had developed during the years of deception to now build genuine relationships. The 3 centuries of hiding? Park considered the question carefully. The deception was necessary to survive, but I prefer the truth. It is more complicated, but also more rewarding. As the sun set over New Geneva, now the Alliance capital, the Admiral reflected on the journey that had brought the galaxy to this point. Humanity had entered galactic civilization as pretended primitives and had ultimately become its guardians. Not through conquest or domination, but through the patient demonstration that cooperation was stronger than competition. The hidden fleet that had once sparked a galactic uproar now served as the foundation of galactic unity. The deception that had protected humanity's survival had evolved into the honesty that protected everyone's future. In the end, humanity's greatest victory had not been military or technological. It had been proving that different species could work together as equals, each contributing their unique strengths to the benefit of all. The galaxy was no longer divided into the strong and the weak, the advanced and the primitive. It had become a community where diversity was celebrated and cooperation was the foundation of strength. The stars that had once looked down on a galaxy, divided by fear and suspicion, now witnessed a civilization, united by hope and mutual respect. And at the center of it all, the species that had once hidden in the shadows now helped guide everyone toward a brighter future.